Okay, today's video is going to be about narcissism, signs, symptoms, characteristics, kind of the whole thing we got going on with it. So what narcissism is a neurological issue that is designated in the dark triad of psychological issues, which psychopathy, sociopathy is one. They kind of intermingle. Narcissism is another, and then Machiavellianism is a third, making the triangle. All of those personality types typically have negative connotations towards them because of the inherent way that they behave as people. Most of them in each category of those three categories have very similar traits. Either that or they all have a specific number of traits in a list. So you can kind of develop and understand that someone has one of those characteristics or one of those personality types by them filling out a questionnaire and checking off the list quite a few characteristic traits of their personality that match on the list. So one of the most significant symptoms, I would say, of a narcissistic personality disorder is the extremely strong sense of self. Now, there's a difference between having a strong sense of self, of who you are, what you're about, what you will and won't do, what your boundaries are. That's all healthy stuff. But with a narcissist, what they prefer to do is talk about I all the time. If you bring something up about you, they will drag it back into their court and talk about themselves and how they can relate to it, instead of being able to have that empathy, sympathy towards someone else in a situation where they can step outside of themselves and relate to the other person without bringing their own person, their own I into the equation. That is something that is very common that is done. It's something that you will see almost every narcissist do. They relate to others through themselves, and that's something that's fine. People do that in a way to help further develop their own understanding of the situation a lot of the time. But this is something that you will find that a narcissist will do almost all of the time. They will almost always bring the conversation back to themselves and make it about me, I. And all of a sudden you will be left out of the conversation, and it was about you to begin with when you were trying to convey your feelings or explain a situation, describe something you liked, anything like that. And so you might say, I like strawberries. And the other person will say, oh, I like strawberries too. Ice cream is one of my favorite things. Me, I. And that is something that is very common characteristic and trait among narcissists, because the basic fundamental foundation of a narcissist is me. One of the weird things is that people have like boundaries as far as their bodies go. Like, I know that everything outside of me is not me. This is kind of an interesting understanding that I have. So everything that I am is inside of me, right? My skin and inside of me is who I am. That is essentially the boundaries in which once I go outside of myself, it's no longer me. Narcissists kind of have ownership of the world in their own mind. They kind of have a megalomaniac type of mentality where people aren't really people, they're just objects to own. And that's kind of the disgusting mental block that they have, is that they don't look at other people as people. Even though they look in the mirror and they see themselves as a person, they don't look at other people as people because they treat them like objects to be used. And that's why you'll find that they will develop these spider webs of people that they will use as tools to better their particular goal in life of what they want. And so they will create what you would call a narcissistic minion. That's what I call them, because the technical term, flying monkey, is something that can be kind of turned against you if you say it and use it incorrectly, or someone might take offense to that. But that comes from the Wizard of Oz and the Wicked Witch having her flying monkeys doing her bidding, flying out and investigating, inspecting, checking on people, and so you will find that very commonly a narcissists, depending on how big of a narcissist they are, because some of them will have an army underneath them, essentially. A narcissist will have a large group of flying monkeys, narcissistic minions, under their control to do their bidding for whatever purpose they might find. This can be something as large as international boundaries. They might have groups of flying monkeys in multiple countries on multiple continents. You could see this kind of something along the lines of politicians, CEOs, larger, more wealthy individuals. A lot of those people have narcissistic traits, and you can see that the way that they will operate. It's easy for them to run a large company because they also, behind the scenes, run a large group of people for their own personal endeavors. So yeah, that's something that you will find, is that they will have a group of people to do their bidding. And the methods by which they will get people to do this is through their love bombing cycle. They'll love bomb someone, tell them they're great, they're awesome, they're cool. Then they'll devalue them, tell them they're shit, and basically break them down. Then they'll throw them away. And then they'll bring them right back in with a Hoover, or Hoover's a vacuum. So that's one of the terms that they use. They will Hoover the person right back in with more love bombing and start the whole cycle all over again. Now what this does is similar to the likes on Facebook. It creates a dopamine loop in your body to where you become physically addicted to needing the attention, the likes, the love bombing. It literally hijacks your dopamine system. That's why they call narcissists vampires, because they essentially have a vampiric nature. They drain the spiritual energy out of other people. They drain the energy out of other people to better benefit themselves. That's why Bram Stoker's Dracula was a metaphorical statement of what a vampire is. And that's a narcissist. Bram Stoker's Dracula is a narcissist. This is the best way that they could explain it without saying it out loud and saying it directly. A vampire will bite the neck of a person. That person turns into another vampire, or under the influence of the master vampire, which essentially shows the same thing that you would see in narcissism, in which they do the love bombing cycle, and then the person becomes under their control, becomes a flying monkey or a narcissistic minion. It's very easy to see the analogy, and the way the two are very parallel. And you will find that in a lot of different sectors of society. There will be movies that are made in order to explain things without saying them directly. So this is one of the things that narcissism has been around since basically the dawn of time of humanity. And Bram Stoker's Dracula was one of the things that you can kind of see has some parallel relationships between narcissism and vampirism. I am 100% certain that that was the point of the movie, the book, and the descriptive qualities in which the way that they described Dracula. That being said, one of the biggest symptoms you will see is the narcissistic minion. One of the things that is very interesting to me, I had personally experienced flying monkeys for a long period of time, did not understand what it was, what was going on. What I found online when I started studying was something called gang stalking, and people being called targeted individuals. I didn't really adhere to that community because a lot of the people had become so gaslit and distraught and upset from what they were dealing with that they had literally become borderline crazy. So I couldn't really identify with a lot of the people that were in that community. It is very unfortunate that they were not aware quickly enough to catch the severe gaslighting and manipulative abuse that they had endured, to the point where they had essentially lost control of their own mental faculties and their life. So that was something that I found to be interesting. I started studying that, at least a decade ago. But I never studied psychology until a couple years ago. I realized that something was going on. I kind of needed to see what was going on, something neurological as far as working with specific people going, this person's on medication, they're taking counseling, and the more medication they take, it seems to be the worse that they're getting instead of the better. And they had an extremely controlling personality, and they would flip-flop all the time. And I was going, what is this? And I looked it up, and I realized that they were love bombing me just completely to death. So one of the things, the last conversation I had with that person It was a step-for-step conversation. Every sentence they said was a step of DARVO. That's D-A-R-V-O. That's the abbreviation for it. It stands for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So what a narcissist will do is that they will basically say something that will trigger you. Okay? And then you will get angry and upset because you know what they're doing and you don't appreciate them treating you poorly. And so you call them out on it. Maybe you get upset, maybe you get a little emotional. And then what they do is they go into a victim response where they go, oh, I didn't mean it that way, I didn't know. Because they always like try to have a what you would call a plausible deniability. They always try to do it and say things in what you would call double entendres or things that can be taken multiple ways. So now no matter what way you take it, you can take it the wrong way and they can make you feel stupid or downplay your whatever their mentality of trying to control and manipulate you. So first they'll deny it. They'll say, oh, I didn't know, I didn't mean for that to happen, I didn't mean that way. And then what they'll do is they'll accuse you after they basically were on the attack. They will switch it over so they become the victim because of the way that you took what they had said. That is an extreme form of manipulation where they basically do a role reversal. After they attack and abuse you, they flip it around like they're the one that should be felt to be the victim of the situation and poor me type of mentality. So then they essentially are attacking you once again, because at first you're going, well, wait a minute, you're not supposed to treat me this way, this is bad communication, this is the way that things should be. And they're going, oh, well, I didn't mean this way, why do you treat me like that, why do you say these things? And they'll go and reverse it right around on you when they damn well know what they're doing. They're mistreating you to begin with. Okay, so they might turn something as simple as a hug or a sweet hand gesture into something that is painful to you. Okay, so they might do something as simple as hugging you and might say that hug is meant to tell you that what you did was wrong, but that's okay. Okay, and so every time after that you're getting a hug from someone, it makes you feel like you've done something wrong. So this is kind of a good example of how they'll take something beautiful and genuine and turn it into a pile of garbage in the mind of someone else. So someone else might be getting triggered every time they get a hug because of that from that point on. And you have to have strong enough psychological understanding, psychological boundaries in order to prevent yourself from being manipulated in that way. Because what they'll do is they'll torture you. They're kind of sick little creatures. They will torture you like they would torture a little animal, which is actually something that, when it comes down to it, I don't know if this is something that is a distinguishing characteristic of narcissism, but I would not be surprised that they mistreat animals when they're young, similar to a psychopath, because they will do the same thing with a human once they get old enough and manipulative enough and intelligent enough to behave that way. That being said, they will do something very similar in that way with DARVO, where they will take a completely benign action, something you would consider that would be a beautiful act of love, and turn it into something that would trigger and upset a person, and in a way to where no one else would really know what's going on. So that's a very interesting symptom and sign I've seen of narcissism, in a way somebody has, well, personally treated me. I've had that happen to me. And it took me months to actually get over that symptom and understand that what they're doing doesn't have anything to do with anyone else and doesn't have anything to do with me. Like what they're trying to put on me, like my dad used to say about how other people would misbehave, is don't lay your head trip on me. In other words, don't take your psychological disturbances and drag them my direction, because I don't need it. It's not for me, right? Like that, this is your head trip. This is not mine. I don't need it. So that's the point. And when you see that, is that what you want to do is that if they start taking something that you find lovely and beautiful and turn it into something ugly, that is a narcissistic trait. And they'll do that with hobbies. They'll do that with other people they don't want in your life. They'll do that with just about anything that they can manipulate in and out of your life. that's something that's important to take in consideration and understand what's going on there. I think Darbo is a pretty good example and understanding of something that is common. Mirroring is another thing. They will mirror you. If they really, really like you and they've been love bombing you, what they absolutely love to do is they love to mirror you. They want to know exactly what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're doing it, because they like your personality. You will find that a narcissist doesn't really have their own personality. It's just a amalgamation of previous people that they liked and appreciated in their life, and they will adopt those traits of another person. So it's like it's weird because it'll be someone almost like multi-personality disorder, where they will essentially not have a personality of their own. They'll have a series of personalities of other people, other different people that they've taken advantage of and used along the way, and figured out how they can get what they want out of that person. Which is something that comes down to another, so if you see someone mirroring you on a regular basis during the love bombing process, it's something that you should question and make sure that, is this somebody that loves you, or is this somebody that is just mirroring you to try and figure out how they can take advantage of you? Because it can be used as a weapon. And also, that sort of mirroring can also be used to drive somebody crazy. That's something that you know, obviously everyone knows what a 3 or 4 year old will do when they're sitting in the back of the car copying everything that mom says. Drives her nuts, right? I'm pretty sure that most people out there who are kids have done that at some point in time to their mom. And so mirroring is a very common thing that human beings do. You have to differentiate between whether it's a mirroring out of affection and love, or if it's a mirroring because the person is essentially a narcissist and doesn't have a personality of their own. You can kind of figure that out pretty quickly, because most people have stable personalities, so they'll switch around according to their emotions, but you'll still see the same underlying person. So me in particular, I have very strong emotions, and you can see that. When I get mad, I get mad. When I get sad, I get sad. When I get happy, I get happy. You can tell what my personality traits are. With a narcissist, sometimes they might just shut down. They'll get to a point where they'll kind of just sit there and they don't really know what to do. And that's because they're kind of scrolling through their mental Rolodex, trying to figure out how they can manipulate the system or the situation back into their favor. So that's something else that I've seen happen. It's definitely a characteristic trait where they are crazy little creatures. They'll do everything from taking on your clothing style to the way that you talk to your hand mannerisms. They'll try and get into your friend group, try and figure everything out about your friends, and then after they're done with you, they'll try and destroy that. They'll try and screw it all up. Try and take away your personality, make you into a dead shell, because they don't want people to know that you are the original. That's part of it too. They don't want other people to find out that the personality traits that they stole from you are not their own, because then they're fake, right? And people don't want to be called out as being fake. Even a narcissist, one of the worst things that can happen for them, right, is realize that they're not real. So that's one of the things that they like to do too, is a lot of times they will try to destroy the person that they stole from, and that's really what it is. It's really stealing, more or less. I don't know what else to really call it. It's not having admiration for someone like you'll see most people will have an admiration for someone else and they'll appreciate who they are and they'll want to adopt their traits. No, because those people will appreciate the person, right? They will appreciate that person. They will love that person. They will understand that person has been in their life to help them out and make their life better. They won't try to destroy them, harm them, hurt their feelings, hurt their heart, destroy their relationships with their family, try and pull them away, isolate them. That's another thing a narcissist likes to do with their victims. They like to isolate them, try and pull them away from all of their support groups, from their friends, their family, any support group that they have that they might be able to weasel their way into and figure it out. It's really a sinister mental condition in the way that they operate, because you need to understand that at the beginning the person is acting like they love you, but really it's only a mentality to get in there to take from you. It has nothing to do with love. So you want to make sure that if you're falling in love with someone, that it's not a monster, right? It's not a monster that's going to come out of the closet later on and try and bite your head off or take away everything you got, including your material possessions, your friends, your family, your life, your sanity too, because dealing with a narcissist is like dealing with a crazy person at times. Sometimes they will do just about anything. They will have these anger fits if they can't get their way. If that doesn't work, they'll try to love you. They'll try to be sad and try and manipulate you that way. They'll use just about any emotion and any methodology they possibly can. They're kind of crazy. Another thing is that they're very sexually promiscuous. They will use sex to get the goals done that they need and not think twice about it. A lot of them, the thing is that narcissists have a very beautiful outer personality and outer persona. You can look at them, you can tell they're a beautiful person. That's why you'll see a lot of famous people, a lot of people that are like politicians, CEOs, people in high upper echelons of society. They have narcissistic tendencies, narcissistic traits. They keep themselves very well kept. They will always shave. They will always have their eyebrows plucked. They will always be tanned. You know, they just try to make themselves look as good as possible. Tons of plastic surgery, anything like that. Maybe makeup, outfits, cars. You know, basically trying to personify a character that they want other people to see them as, so they can portray themselves as the guy, the girl, you know, the one. And so that is done as an outward appearance because they lack the capability of having deep, strong inner spiritual understanding. When you come against, that's one of the things too, is that empaths have strong spiritual understanding, and a super empath is like the antithesis of a narcissist. Narcissists can't really deal with empaths because a super empath will essentially expose them and emotionally crush them in ways that a narcissist is not used to being exposed to. They cannot handle a super empath, because a super empath will see what's going on, will feel and understand the methodologies by which a narcissist is trying to control and manipulate them, and will just stop it dead in its tracks, just crush it immediately. And I've seen that happen before in a couple different instances. It is a rare occurrence when you have a super empath go up against a narcissist, but I've never seen a narcissist win against an empath. They're kind of, I would say, the antithesis of each other. That being said, you will find out that a lot of people who are narcissistic also delve in the dark arts, kind of like witchcraft, sorcery, stuff like that. Probably what creates part of the mental problems that come with narcissism is the sorcery and witchcraft. Nothing in life comes for free. If you start delving into those dark arts, you will end up with mental problems. You'll end up with head issues. You'll end up with problems in your family, in your friends, in your life. I've seen all kinds of stuff, from anything from random negative events to happening to instant death type of mentality. Somebody gets too far into a situation, they end up just dying. Yeah, so we've got Darvo we've discussed, we've got mirroring, we've got flying monkeys we've discussed. What else? So narcissists will do weird stuff too. They will like take your clothes, they'll take mementos from your house. They'll also leave stuff at your house too to try and get in any way that they can kind of squeak their way into your life. And they will try hard. They will try hard. If they really want you, they really want your attention, who you are. They like what you have to offer. They will do just about anything to get that. One of the things is with the narcissist, you never want to make a deal with one of them. They have a tendency of always coming out on top and never giving you more than what they get back in return. So that's why you also see these CEOs, these politicians, these people in upper echelon, they're wealthy, they're well off, is because most of the time if they're a narcissist, it's come from other people that they have swindled. So you could also say that narcissists are typically bamboozlers. That's a good word. They're bamboozlers. They're shifty characters. They are what you could call flim-flam man And obviously that's an obvious trait, because if you look at the way they operate, they're stealing personalities from people. They're stealing anything from a personality to your wallet. And you have to be careful with those types of people if you want to keep them in your lives. So the only way to do that is to set clear boundaries. They are going to continuously press on those boundaries, try and stretch the walls, push out, break the walls, break the walls, as you would say. Trying to break the walls. That was something I had recently had to deal with somebody trying to say, I'm gonna crack these walls to get into where I'm trying to get into. And it's like, no, you're not. More witchcraft, right? So you have to block them. One of the ways that you can block them from doing that is with biblical scripture, because it is witchcraft and they're using the devil to get what they want. If you use biblical scripture, it just crushes their ability. You know, they may cast some spells on you, try and do some witchcraft. If you have some biblical scripture that you can quote, it absolutely destroys their spell casting. And that's kind of a crazy thing for me to even want to say that. A lot of people won't agree with that. A lot of people won't believe that. But I've experienced it firsthand on high levels of sorcerers and witchcraft and people that are into dark arts to the point where I can't even believe. And you know, I've experienced dark arts and stuff like that since I was a kid and wasn't aware of it until in my early 30s. That was when I started kind of doing soul searching and trying to figure out what was going on. I was completely oblivious most of my whole life. I had people around me that were doing witchcraft and sorcery. I lived in a small town that had a witch's coven in it and wasn't even aware of it my entire childhood. People I was walking around with, people I hugged on a regular basis were high-level witches. So it's kind of an interesting thing to even realize that now. They were always nice to me, always good people, but I mean, when you think about that, oh my God, right? What is happening? Why wasn't I made aware of this? So yeah, that's another thing, is the way that they'll treat you is a pretty obvious sign. They'll never take responsibility. That's one of the things too, is that they never say sorry. No matter what kind of shit they will do to you, they will never apologize. And if they do, it's a fake apology. They'll go back to doing the same shit as soon as they can get away with it. And that's unfortunate, because they never grow, they never learn, they never get themselves to a point where they can actually do better in their own lives. It's really hard to get a genuine sorry from a narcissist, because then they have to look in the mirror. They have to look at themselves in the way that they've behaved and treated other people, and that's a difficult situation. What can you do for one of those types of people? There's not really much. And if you do try, what you do is you end up self-sacrificing. So that's one of the issues with the narcissist, is you end up self-sacrificing. Essentially, the end game of a narcissist is to get you under control to the point where they own you like a piece of property. That's essentially what they want. They want you to go out and do their bidding according to what they want, and they will build a life around you. That's the craziest part. They'll give you a job. They'll put you in a place like a home or an apartment or whatever. They'll put you in a life, and they'll use you as basically a minion or a tool to get what they want from other people. And the song goes on and the beat goes on. It's pretty much how it is. And that's a scary thing. It's a scary thing, because these people become property. And you'll see that in places like Hollywood. You'll find that some of the artists in Hollywood are literally, even though they're multimillionaires, are property. They're still considered property of a narcissist. And you know, with what we've seen recently in Hollywood, with a lot of stuff going crazy, and you know, the last decade we've had YouTube come out and everything else, and Hollywood has struggled. You can kind of see that kind of developing of the situation that's going on. A lot of the people that are Hollywood stars are essentially flying monkeys or narcissistic minions. You would not be aware of that, because they have a life to live, they have a way to behave, and they have a character that they have developed, their own persona as a person. And a good example would be someone like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, his whole life was just playing characters of other people. Now, I'm not saying he's a narcissist. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that he was under the influence of narcissists that were trying to make him into something other than his own character, his own personality. And you know, by the end of his career, after he kind of is retired now for the most part, after his wife commits suicide and he had a revelation, a rude awakening, I would say, he realized that he had been giving himself to everyone else, to where he had no more pieces of himself left. And you could see that in a lot of the movies that he was portraying characters and other people. That was essentially what you could kind of consider him under the influence of a narcissist. Because I wouldn't say that he's a narcissist himself. I'd say that he was gaslit and pretty much put under the influence of narcissistic people, to where he was doing their bidding, and he had the personality, the acting skills, and the capabilities of becoming the actor that he became. And so a lot of the time you will see someone like that who starts off as a person who has character and potential, and they will be essentially run into the ground. Their personality will change. Who they are as a person will completely change. And so when his wife commits suicide and died, that was a pretty obvious statement of what had happened to him as a person. Was kind of the final culmination of him saying, I quit, I'm not working for you people anymore because of what happened to my wife. So narcissists can do really horrible things to people psychologically, down to the point where they'll want to take their own life. That can happen through the dopamine cycle, because you feel really, really miserable, really shitty if you're love bombed for a long time and then it's removed from you. So that is a method by which they gain control of people and turn people into essentially zombies. I think that I can kind of stop this video from here. It's getting long-winded. It's 30 minutes long. But I do think that I did cover a lot of the topics and signs and symptoms of what narcissism is, and the things you can look out for, things that I've experienced and seen. Anyways, I hope this video helps some people and keeps them out of trouble. Have a good day. Bye.